All right, we're at the top of the hour. Welcome everybody to our webinar today. My name is Sheldon Mills. I'm a marketing manager here at Microfocus, and I'm here with Q Mangus, the director of product marketing for Retain here at Microfocus. Today we're going to have a Q&A session addressing the most frequent questions we receive regarding social media archiving, best practices, and specifically Retain and any questions you have about that. I'll be filling the questions and Q will be answering them. We have a number of questions we want to get through today. But if you have any questions as we go through the webinar, please put those through in the Q&A panel or the chat panel, and Q will be sure to address those. Your questions are the most important. We want to make sure we answer. Yeah, Q.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome everyone here. We're really excited for this topic about social media archiving, and hope you can benefit from what we're gonna discuss here today.
Perfect. So let's just jump right in. Minute in, we already started. Let's see. First question, Q. Why do I need to archive social media? We get this one a lot. What's the point?
Yeah, so things have changed a lot when it comes to the way people communicate, right? And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on that. Um, but some of the reasons why you need to, let's just talk a little bit broadly on archiving and kind of the way it's changed. Some things to take note of is that it's been found that most companies will be involved in legal or regulatory action by the end of the year, about 75%. Another thing is that your data will continue to grow each year. This is some information from Gartner. So a couple of reasons why you should be archiving all of your electronic communication is just the fact that you need that information in case of litigation, and your data continues to grow, so you need to manage that data. Also, data becomes risky, redundant, and outdated and trivial. It's about 15 to 60% of your data does that. And so you need to once again manage that data. Now, when it comes to social media in particular, here's some stats going backward a little bit on what has been happening with enterprise and consumer social media data and how much people use it. So people are using social media at an increased rate. In 2012, it was roughly, you see, for enterprise and consumer, it was just over 30 to 40 minutes a day. And now, last year, it was the stats came out that showed that the increase was quite a bit on the amount of time that people were using social media. But what's interesting is that enterprise social media does grow. And so the point of that is that your organization has employees and has social media that is being used on your network. So you probably now have a corporate social media account. I would imagine that you have employees that are using social media to communicate with your customers. With this being the case, you need to be able to have oversight on that. And so that's the real reason why you should be archiving social media, is to have that oversight. And as we talked about it, things have changed, meaning that the courts view social media the same as email. Actually, as recently as December of 2015, so just over a year ago, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure came out and stated that social media has the same weight as other types of electronic communication, meaning email in particular. And so you need to be able to produce that in case of litigation, but you need to be able to manage that. And so because social media is growing in the marketplace, meaning that your company is more than likely using it, you need to have that oversight, and so you need to archive that. And so that's really the reason, is the way that it's being viewed and the fact that it is being used for your company.
So that brings us to the question we always get after that. So what concerns do my company have with social media? So what do I have to do specifically for my company, I guess?
So that's a big one, because every company is a little different. There are concerns that are based kind of on what industry your company plays in. But before I go into that, the thing to be asking yourself is, what social media accounts are out there? What social media accounts does your business have? And how are you using those? And that could really help you determine what you should be doing with those accounts and how you should be having oversight on those, is how they're being used. But specifically, depending on your organization, for everybody, that's the last point, is that, and I've touched on this, is that you need to be able to archive all of your electronic communication. That's essential. Um, that's so that you can be ready in case of litigation or in case of an audit, and even just to, like we talked about, to manage your data. Another reason is in case of accusations. If somebody is maybe even internally accusing one person of doing something, you can have proof of that on the social media. Now with government, we'll just move up from there. Government has specific regulations that touch on what they need to do, and FOIA being one of them, that you need to be able to adhere to information requests within 10 days of receipts, and that can be for your government social media accounts as well. Healthcare is similar in the sense that you need to be able to produce communications in case of an audit or oversight committees looking at your information. And the idea is that you cannot leak protected health information. Communications can't contain medical records and payment notices, so you need to be able to have that oversight to make sure that that stuff isn't being pushed out. And then financial services, as we know, has a lot of regulations, a lot of oversight, and a lot of it is making sure that your employees are communicating correctly with your customers, that they're not, you know, leaking trade secrets or stock information, that maybe they're stating opinions as fact, or those kind of things. You need to be able to have oversight that your employees are not communicating that way, and so that's why it's important that your social media is archived, that you can have that oversight. So those are some things that kind of are based on the industry that you're in, and some of the concerns that you may have about social media.
So, sorry, thinking of the logical next step here. At this point, people ask us, what about my corporate social media accounts? You know, what social media should I archive?
So that's a big one. I mean, the idea is that most people aren't archiving their social media. This was from a recent Osterman Research white paper, and it kind of showed that a lot of organizations are archiving their email. But when it comes to Facebook and Twitter, and this could apply to other social media as well, that organizations just aren't archiving it, as along with mobile communications either, as you can see here. But the idea is that if you have a corporate social account, so if that's a Facebook account, a Twitter account, YouTube, anything of that nature, you need to be able to preserve what has been said, what has been posted on those social media accounts, what has been communicated to your company through those social media accounts, and you need that oversight to be able to show what has been going on. And so I would say the advice I would give to everybody on this call is that whatever social media accounts you have at your company, whether that's a corporate account, or your employees using their social media accounts to communicate with employees, you need to be archiving those accounts. You need to have oversight of that. You need to capture it and be able to go back and review that. You need to, in a sense, monitor it and archive it so that you can have a full view of what has been said on social media and what has been communicated, so that you aren't one of those companies that don't have it and that you're not prepared. So that's the big thing. When it comes to what you should be archiving, you should be archiving any corporate social account. You should be monitoring it as well for certain keywords, for questions, etc. And any employee account that's using it to communicate with customers. Then you can have that oversight to make sure that what is being said on social media conforms with your policies, and that you can make sure and have a record of what has been said.
You spoke a little bit before about industry-specific requirements and whatnot. Are there any regulations that could affect how, say, my organization archives social media?
Yeah, absolutely. We touched a little bit about FRCP. This is kind of just a little cloud of some of those. Um, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure have outright come out and said that social media has the same weight as email, so that one affects everybody. So that alone shows that if you're ever involved in litigation, you better be able to produce social media that's relevant. Um, Other things are for government. We talked about FOIA. I realize that's not on here, but the Freedom of Information Act is one. So, and that's, as we talked about, that as if you're in government, you know that if you get a Freedom of Information request, you need to produce that information within 10 days. Then for education, if you're a university or another school, there's FERPA, and that requires that you produce student information. So if any of your students are communicating on social media and it has to do with school information, or if there's if there's school social media accounts, those need to be archived. There's for healthcare, there's HIPAA and high tech. Those both deal with what we were talking about with not leaking personal health information and making sure that that information is not communicated. And then for financially, you've got SEC, the Dodd-Frank Act, FSA. There's a myriad of regulations that you guys have in financial that could affect you.
Okay, let's jump into retain then. Specifically about, yeah, so how does social media archiving work with retain?
So yeah, we've touched a lot about the reasons why you should archive and the regulations and some of the concerns. Let's hit on the solution that we provide here at Microfocus to be able to archive your social media. So Retain Social is that solution, and it's part of the overall solution set of Retain archiving. And so Retain solves those problems, solves the concerns that you have with making sure that you have oversight on your social media communication, that you can provide social media communication in case of litigation or in case of an audit or in case of a Freedom of Information Request Act. And it helps you monitor and manage your data so that you can get rid of that redundant and trivial data that we were talking about. And the way that it does that is it monitors and archives social media. So we've partnered with a company called Archive Social, and what Archive Social does is it captures full resolution pictures, videos, GIFs, and other data formats. It alerts you for keywords, questions, and personal identifiable info to help you make sure that that information is not pushed out. You can connect to social media accounts without login info, and this works on and off the network. So Archive Social captures it, and then it is pushed into Retain Social. So now that it's in Retain, once it's in Retain Social, it's indexed and fully searchable. So, and you have tools that Retain has to be able to allow you to search quickly the archive data. So you have the ability to capture everything in context, full resolution, and then you have that in Retain to be able to provide that search. So here's a quick overview of kind of how that works. So here's your social media accounts, and this is specifically for corporate, your company social media accounts, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Flickr, or Vimeo. Archive Social will connect to those, capture that data, and then push it into Retain. This is also for, as I kind of talked about, employee accounts that are communicating with customers. So if you have employees that have accounts in which they are communicating with your customers, that is where you would want to archive those. And what's great is you have that oversight because it's all captured and archived in Retain. It's preserved in its native format, and there's eDiscovery tools to be able to search, perform those searches, place holds, place tags, and there's advanced search. So what I'm going to do really quick, let's look really quickly at how you would connect an account. So here's a view of Archive Social, a little dashboard of what's being archived. This has gone down a little bit because I did take a few of the accounts off of here, but to connect an account, all you'd have to do is go into Configure. You would look at the account that needs to be connected. So I'm not going to do this right now, but you just hit Connect Facebook. And then what's great is you don't have to have the login information. All you have to do is be logged into this account. So I'm logged into my personal Facebook account. If I hit continuous queue, it would now start pulling in all of my Facebook feed into Archive Social. And what's great is you can see here that these are the accounts that are being archived, and you can browse right from Archive Social and see the items that have been archived. So let's go into the YouTube videos and you can view them. Now you can see the things that I've uploaded recently into the YouTube page, and you can actually, the actual videos are there. Let's look at another one here. So this Facebook page here was archived, and you can view the entries, and then you'll be able to see the posts that have been made and then any comments that are along with that as well. And what's great also, let's pull this across. So it's right here. These posts are also archived into Retain. So any wall posts are there from Facebook that's pushed into Retain. Any tweets, any of the social media accounts that are connected through Archive Social are pushed into Retain, and then you can perform searches of that information. So from here, let's just do a quick search and you'll see, and this is where the power comes in. So the power of Archive Social is that it captures it. The power of Retain is that ability to search. So if I'm going through and I do a search, you see how quickly that comes across, and it actually gives me suggestions of what should be searched based on what is in the archive, and then it also highlights those search results. And the great thing about Retain is that it's a unified archive, meaning that, of course, as we're talking social media, all social media is archived in Retain, but also your other things like email and mobile communication is also archived in that one same central archive. And then let's actually make sure that we have some Facebook, so we can drill down and look at particular items. So there's an example of a Facebook post that had the word test in it. I was able to find that quickly, and I can drill down and see the things that I only want to see. And so that's a little bit of a quick overview of how the social media archiving works in Retain, and that is that Archive Social captures it. You have those any of your corporate social accounts or any accounts that are being used in an official way, they're archived and then they're pushed into Retain, so you can have that powerful search and eDiscovery tools. And from here you could place like a litigation hold, you could tag these messages, you could forward them, export and restore, etc. So you have those tools to be able to have a complete archive and be able to be compliant as well.
Perfect. We have a question there asking what makes Retain different or better or whatever than other archiving solutions.
Good. So here's some of the things that makes Retain different. The biggest thing, and we talk about this all the time, is that it's the Retain unified archiving. And what we mean by unified archiving is that it archives more than just one thing. So today we're talking about social media. So yes, it archives social media, but it also archives email in addition to social media, and it archives multi-platform email. So if you're using multiple systems, let me just show you this next one. I'll come back to this slide, but I just want to show this because say you're running Exchange in Office 365 or GroupWise in Gmail, you have the ability to archive multiple email systems in that one central archive, and that's also archived along with social media. And then if you have mobile devices, that's archived as well. And so that's one of the big things that makes Retain different, is that you don't have to have separate solutions for each type of communication that you're trying to archive. It's all archived into one central archive using Retain. Then you have intelligent granular archiving, and what that means is that it ties directly to the email system to make sure that everything is pulled across. So depending on your email system, it functions differently. So it ties directly to GroupWise as an example. It ties directly to Gmail. It doesn't use an SMTP archiving. It's a direct integration. And then for Exchange, it uses the journal or impersonation or the Microsoft Recoverable Items folder. So the idea is that it pulls everything over. You can access the archive from the web viewer, which I was showing earlier. You can access it from Retain app, a mobile app that goes onto a mobile device. You can access it from an email plugin, and you can access it from an offline viewer. Some other things are this easy search tool that I showed you, a search wizard, those built-in eDiscovery tools that we were talking about. I showed that a little bit. The ability to redact, and I know we'll hit on that a little bit more. Um, Also, retain archives in an email in a platform agnostic format. So if you ever do need to migrate email systems, it's easy to do because it's not dependent on the email system. So if you're archiving, say, Exchange today and you move to another platform tomorrow like Office 365, your Exchange is going to be archived using retain, and then it will tie to the new system and it will archive that going forward. And so it makes that migration easy. Then we talked about the tagging. You can place mailbox holds, and then there's a couple of other really cool things that are very unique to retain is this ability that you have to connect to files like SharePoint or Filer or other ECM solutions to be able to use their index to do a search. So retain doesn't archive files, but what it does do is when you do that search like I showed earlier, you can connect other things like SharePoint. And so when you do a search, it's going to pull that information across using retain search tools, so you can actually search those items directly from retain. And then when it comes to the cloud, there's multiple cloud options. So this is great for organizations that have to know exactly where their data is retain can be placed in a private cloud, a public cloud, and then a partner geographic specific cloud. So if you have requirements where your data can't leave your country, we have the ability to deploy retain in a cloud that would be local, geographically specific to help you maintain data sovereignty. So those are some of the ways that we've marked that retain is different from other solutions. There's other things as well, but these are the big ones. And yeah, the best thing to do, I would suggest, is that everyone on this call is give it a try. Either go out and test it out on your own. If you go to demo.guava.com, you can access the retain demo and kind of see how it works. That's kind of what I was showing you from. Or you can contact us and we'll schedule a time to give you a personalized demo as well. But those are some of the things that makes retain different.
Perfect. So how does retain help with, say, eDiscovery?
Good. So let's show that here. Let me skip through here. Okay, we've kind of seen the unified archive. So here's a few things with eDiscovery management, and I'll show you these tools as well. You can, like we talked about, you can easily search. The archive is completely compliant, so it uses worm storage. You can be sure that it complies with all the regulations, all the requirements for the different regulations that we talked about when it comes to storage and being able to search. Messages in social media, as we talked about, are intelligently threaded. You can perform redaction of information that doesn't need to be part of the public record, and that's done via our standalone archive viewer. You can place litigation holds. There's an audit trail so that everything that is being done in retain is logged, so you can go back and see who has accessed it and what they've accessed. There's different permissions. So what's great is you can grant different teams different rights. So if you have a legal team that you need to access the archive, you can grant them rights. If you have auditors as well, you can. And then you can also give end users access to their own personal archive. So that's a great thing as well, so they can access the archive and do their own things depending on what you want to give them. So if you want them to be able to restore messages back to their, say in the email sense, back to their live inbox, you can. And then of course there's that fast and easy retrieval, meaning that messages come across quickly. So let me show you really quick just a couple of those things. I know we saw that already, but here's some of the items. Let's go back to that search that we did. I'm going to take off a few of these things. So once again, if you do a search, that quickly comes across. It's going to pull in the different items. Here's some mail messages. Let's go back to these. So there's that social media post. What's great from here is you could now place that item on a litigation hold. You could tag that item, and if there's multiple items, you could tag those multiple items, and the tags can be confidential. They can be shared with different teams, but now that makes it so you can go back and search again. You could forward these messages if you needed to forward messages that have been found to an outside team. You can export them, and the supported exported items are PST or PDF along with the standalone archive viewer. And what the standalone archive viewer is that you do a search and you take that subset of the archive. Let's just take those off. So you could take everything that comes up in this search, you could export that to the standalone archive viewer. And what's great is that when you do that, it's going to include all the attachments, everything that's in the archive, and it's fully indexed. That can be it's standalone, so it can be placed onto a DVD or a jump drive, or say put onto a Dropbox or other enterprise social sharing or file sharing tool, and hand it off to an outside team. And now they can view that subset of the archive, they can perform searches of that archive, and they can perform redaction directly from there. So that's the power of Retain. So those are some of the eDiscovery tools that are in there so that you can be prepared. You can print as well, so you can be prepared for potential litigation or an audit.
Just let me double check and make sure I didn't miss any questions. About this time, people would like to know what the next steps are. How do I, like you said, check it out or get a quote or what?
Good. So just kind of as a summary, these are all the items that Retain archives, right? It's more than just archiving social media, but we did talk about social media. So the next steps would be to go out and get a personalized demo or quote to see how Retain Social could work for you. You can do that by visiting retainarchiving.com, and from there you can also contact us and get more information. I'd encourage you to go out and see exactly how Retain Social could work for you and get a price to see how reasonable it can be to archive your social media. And yeah, that's something that's really important, so I'd encourage you to start doing that today and make sure that you have that oversight of your social media communication.
Real quick, we do have a couple questions in here, Q. Do we have time?
Absolutely, yes, we have some time, so we can hit on those for sure.
The one question is, what formats can information be exported to?
So yes, absolutely. So the export is the supported export formats are PDF, PST are the two major ones, and what's great with the PDF, just to take note, is it's easy to search through that PDF as well, and it's going to show the message and anything pertinent to that message. So in the case of social media, it's going to show the things threaded. In the case of email, it's going to show the email and the attachment. And then there's the standalone viewer, which is the other way that it can be exported, and then that can also, from the standalone viewer, you can export again to PDF. So that standalone archive viewer could be handed to an outside team. They can search that, it's fully indexed, and then if they need to export again, they can do that to PDF or PST. So the supported files, once again, are PDF, PST, or that standalone viewer.
Perfect. We have another question. They ask that in addition to email and social media, they're interested in archiving their website, and will Retain be doing this in the future?
That is something that we've looked at. We understand that website archiving is something that's needed. At this time, that's not something we're doing, but that could potentially be something that we do in the future. So yes, look for that. We're always adding additional things to Retain. The way that Retain is built is it's easy for us to create connectors to collectors to new items. So if we want to collect websites, we can do that, but it's just something that if there's enough of a demand for it and the use cases there, that's something that we can add. It's not currently on our map, but it is something that could come about.
Perfect. Let me double check, see if anybody else has any more questions before we sign off here. Don't see any more. Do you see any, Q?
Nope, that looks like all of them. Thanks, everyone. Great questions and great participation. Thank you.
Thank you again, and again, just shoot us an email or request a demo, anything that you need. We're here to help, so thank you very much.